Which is the most important shoe in your training routine for you? Is it your out and out racer? Is it the shoe that you do all your sessions in? Well, what about another option? What about your easy day shoe? Think about it, you run every day, hundreds of miles in this shoe. It sounds pretty important to me, and I just happen to have got a new one. So what exactly is that shoe? Well, this is the New Balance 1080 V14. Came out in October of last year. It's a max cushioned, easy day shoe, and I'm going to put it through its paces and tell you everything you actually need to know about it. Not going to bore you with stats for too long. I'm just going to give you the review you actually need. But to properly review a shoe that you're going to do a lot of mileage in, I should probably do a lot of mileage in it. So I'm going to run 100 miles in this shoe over the next few weeks, and I will catch up with you for the full review in a bit. If I didn't look weird enough talking to a camera, standing on one foot while doing so probably nails it. Okay, let's run. So, well over 100 miles running this shoe now, and I want to tell you a bit about it. But first, I thought it would be useful to say what makes a good easy day shoe, because I think at the moment the market is so saturated with loads of different options from loads of different brands, it's very hard to tell what you actually want to look for when you're getting an easy day shoe. So first of all, what are they for? Well, they're for everyday mileage. It's the kind of thing you go on your easy runs in, you do your warm-ups in, your cool downs, your long runs maybe, just all of your mileage, nothing specific or fast. And the main component of it these days, the foam. There's a massive stack of foam on pretty much every easy day shoe these days. It can get up to 40 millimeters, which is the maximum the World Athletics allow in the back of a shoe for competition, and then that just kind of filters into general consumer shoes as well. There are a few exceptions to that in the overstacked category, but for now we're just gonna assume that max cushion is basically 40 millimeters, and most easy day shoes are hovering around that 35 to 40 mark in the back. This is, I think, because it's a bit of a kind of craze at the moment, because these shoes feel really nice, they feel really soft, especially for runners that are just getting into the sport. They feel drastically different from shoes that you'd walk around in like Vans or Converse or anything like that. So having a big stack of cushion underneath you makes you feel like running is a little bit easier because it's softer and your legs don't get quite as battered from it. A lot of foam isn't for everyone though. Yes, if you're doing a lot of mileage or you're quite injury prone, you might like it, but especially people that grew up on the trails or fell running, they like to feel the ground a bit more, so they'd want something with a bit less foam so you can feel the ground. It's a bit more like just running in bare feet. So don't get me started with barefoot shoes, that's a whole different video. So essentially there's just a lot of foam, and it's usually an EVA foam, which is just a fancy term. It means that it's nice and plush and soft, but also gives you a bit of bounce back so that you're not just sinking in when you're hitting the road. As for the upper, you're just looking for a soft and supportive upper with a nice heel, a good tongue that's gonna hug your foot nicely, not be too cramped, give your toes enough space to move around, and breathable for those hot runs when the weather finally gets hot enough. So essentially the elements of an easy day shoe are pretty simple, which is why there are so many to choose from on the market, not just between the brands, but within the brands themselves. There are loads of different shoes for whether you're neutral or a stability runner. So that means how your foot hits the ground when you run. Do you hit on one side or the other, or do you go straight down the middle? Again, that's the thing for another video, or get your gait analysed, go to an actual shop and they'll tell you if you need a stability shoe. So this is an easy day shoe. Is it a good one? Let's find out. What are some of my likes about New Balance 1080 V14? My first like is that it's got an even cushioning throughout the whole foot. So we said about that stack height in the back being 40 millimeters, and I find that it feels pretty flat along the whole foot. It definitely isn't, but in comparison to some of the shoes I've tried, like the Gel Cumulus 25, it felt like there was a big stack of foam in the back, not as much in the front, and I kind of felt like I was running on a cloud, but only in my heel. Whereas I feel like this gives a nice flat response, so there's kind of even levels of cushioning throughout the foot. And I know that isn't the physical case, but that's what it feels like, which I think is more important than what's actually going on in the shoe. And because of that brings me on to my second like. I think it's very versatile for all types of foot strikes, so different types of runner. When you run, you either land on your heel, your midfoot, or your forefoot. kind of unlikely to be hitting right here, especially on an easy run when you're going a bit slower. That's mainly for when you pick up the pace. A lot of people will be hovering around here, and that's completely fine. Different foot strikes aren't as dramatically bad as some people may tell you they are. But with this shoe, I don't think it forces you into any particular foot strike pattern, which I think is very valuable. With my gel Cumulus, there was such a big wad at the back, I was pushed onto my toes a bit more, which I quite liked because that's my style anyway, but it did put a lot more strain on my calves. And not only that, but when you're running your easy days, although I am pretty much a mid-foot striker, if my legs are really tired or I'm getting towards the end of a longer run, I'll be hitting more towards my heel just as my form breaks down a little bit. And I feel like it doesn't force you to do anything you don't want to do, just provides cushioning where you want it, when you want it. That means I don't think you should be too worried about where you are as a foot striker if you want to buy this shoe, because I think it accommodates a lot of different people, and that comes down to its kind of more flat foam response. It's got a lovely snug upper, really cushioned, supportive, but still breathable. I think the fit's really nice for me, at least. It's kind of quite narrow, so it really snugs my foot, especially in the toe box. If you've got big toes or you want your toes to spread out a bit more, then maybe it's not for you. I'll get to that in dislikes, but I love the way the upper fits the top of my foot. I'm a size 11, bought it in a size 11, and it fit absolutely brilliantly. So the upper, I've got absolutely no complaints about. Nice laces, nice tongue. Let's feel, it is a fully gusseted tongue, so that just means that the tongue is attached to the bottom of the shoe on both sides. That means it's going to slip around less, give your foot a little bit more support. Nice and even throughout the whole foot, so it doesn't taper down really narrow in the middle. You can kind of see that on the bottom. It tapers a little bit, but so does your foot. In comparison to like Nike shoes that really taper in the middle, this is pretty good if you've got a kind of straight foot. And again, because of that foam, because of it being an EVA foam, which is pretty standard in shoes these days, I do strides in it and find them absolutely fine. Obviously, it's not mind-blowing. I don't feel particularly fast, but if I need to do strides at the end of a run, I'm quite happy to do it in these. But what are some dislikes? Now, I kind of did struggle with dislikes with this shoe because it's just really good, and I'll get onto that in my conclusion. But if I had to say a few things, the grip isn't brilliant. You can see this rubber bit is kind of reinforced to give you a bit more grip and durability on the outsole, and it's not great in comparison to brands like Puma or Adidas who have really good grips. Most easy day shoes aren't that great for road. I have trail shoes if I'm going off road, so I haven't really noticed a problem with the grip, even on a road shoe. For those wet runs, you want a little bit more grip than a lot of brands offer, but that's a tiny thing and pretty much the same over all brands, not just this shoe. As I said in the likes, the upper is pretty snug. Now, I really like that, but you may want to consider getting a wider version if you have a bit of a wider foot, because it is definitely snug to my size, if you see what I mean. Or if you just like the feeling of a bit more room when you're running, you might also want to size up or go for the wide version. It's kind of just something to think about. It's a dislike for some people, a like for me, so it's a bit of a personal preference thing. My final kind of dislike is just quite how soft it is. I think I like a bit more of a firm, responsive shoe, just a tiny bit. Like I had the Hoka Skyflow, and those were really good because the foam was just tiny bit more responsive, and I felt like I could cruise along on my easy runs a little bit more. But then again, when my legs are really tired, I love being able to sink into the lovely cushioning of this shoe. So you might want to be more aware of it if this is your only shoe, because you really won't be able to go fast in it. It is a pure plodder of an easy day shoe. So if it's in your rotation in that spot, it's going to absolutely nail that job. But if you're trying to get it to pick up paces into tempo threshold, maybe a track workout, you will notice it, especially with how much foam there is. So in conclusion, I've named this video boring but brilliant, and that is exactly what I think it is. It fits into the role of an easy day shoe perfectly. It is exactly what I want. Nice and soft. My legs feel better after having run in it. They're enjoyable to run in, so I want to put them on in the days that maybe I don't necessarily want to run. I know that it's still going to be comfortable. It's soft, but it's not too sluggish. So there's nothing amazingly special about it. It just really nails everything. And I think that's quite valuable, because at the moment there are so many shoes coming out. Potentially brands want to try and make some kind of special element in a shoe to boost its sales. But actually, there's something to be said for just a nice shoe. And I know that's a bit weird for a review, you know, nothing special, and especially for a shoe that's £160, it's pretty expensive. You can definitely find it on discount, by the way. It's just everything I want in an easy day shoe. 150 miles in now, and it feels like the day I bought it, and it's just fun to run in. It's comfortable, it's nice. It's not flashy, but it just doesn't need to be. I think it's a really safe bet of a shoe that everyone's gonna like. I think if you sent this out to 100 different runners of all speeds and abilities and foot strikes, I don't think you'd get many complaints. I don't know, I haven't sent it out to 100 runners, obviously. I just think it reads the brief and nails the brief so well. Really hope it lasts for a very, very long time. I'd love to get well over 500 miles in these. So I stand by my word, boring but brilliant. Nothing fancy, but it absolutely nails the brief, and I think you'll really like it if you choose to buy it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back at some point, probably with another shoe review, but for now there are other videos that you can go and check out on my channel, and maybe subscribe while you're there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.